Thank you so much for joining us today on Everyday Lutheran. In today's sermon, I pray that God stirs your heart, your mind, and above all, your hearing, your calling as a disciple of Jesus Christ. Our gospel today comes from the Gospel of St. Matthew, the 20th chapter. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. When he went out again around 9 o'clock, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And he said to them, "You also go into the vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went. When he went out again about noon and about 3 o'clock, he did the same. And about 5 o'clock, he went out and found others standing around. And he said to them, "Why are you standing idle all day?" They said to him, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You also go into the vineyard." When the evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to the manager, "Call the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and then going to the first." When those hired at about 5 o'clock, each of them received the usual daily wage. Now when the first came, they thought they would receive more, but each of them also received the usual daily wage. And when they had received it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, "These last workers only worked 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat." But he replied to one of them, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give to this last the same as I give to you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or are you envious because I am generous?" So the last will be first, and the first will be last. This is the gospel of our Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. This parable that we hear today within our gospel is one that you can look at in many different ways. This can be done by looking at the various characters that are present and highlighted throughout the story, along with the lessons that they themselves learn. Yet a story can have a feel-good message of what it is we should learn and what it is we should do. But it's a whole other aspect when we go and do the application of those lessons in our own life and in the community around us. Now, the first person that I want us to focus on is those first that were selected and sent out into the fields to do the work. Remember when you were younger, how good it felt to be selected, to feel like you mattered, that you were thought of as important, and that others recognized you as a meaningful team member that they would want on their team. Now these men go out into the field to begin the work, and as the day goes on, others join them. Now this second group of men are different groups that we can learn from. Now these men were not the first string, so to speak, but they were glad to be a part of the work, to make a difference in the community and to feel that they were worthy. Perhaps they worked harder to prove themselves and to make up for the hours that they did not actually work that morning. They wanted to show to the owner that they were valuable and that next time when he needed workers, they would be able to do the work that was needed. They could be selected in that first string. Remember what that was like in your life? To stand off to the side and have just one more person be better than you. That would take away the limelight and you were left in their shadow. You wanted to do better. You wanted to strive, to work harder, but also you may have been a little bitter in recognizing the hard work that someone else had put in. Your focus was on your own life. But this last group of men had probably felt like they were not worthy, like they were the bottom of the barrel. They had been overlooked and rejected by so many throughout the day. The fear of what they would eat, how would they care for their family, and for how much longer would they be able to survive? This would have been all entering into their minds about probably every 5 minutes. They had probably already thought of the excuses that they could use today and all the ones that they had already used in days prior. Coming home empty-handed, feeling rejected. So when the owner came and called them to work, they would have been delighted for the opportunity to have a job, to do whatever was needed, whatever was necessary. They were grateful to contribute and receive any amount of money, for it meant that they would not come home empty-handed, that they would be able to eat, to survive for just a little bit longer. I'm sure many of us have had that feeling at some point in our lives, and some of us today are even feeling that way right now in the midst of all that is going on in this world. But then we have one more person that we can learn about, the owner. The one who had the power and the wealth, who had the ability to make people feel that they mattered, and the ability to pay all of these workers the wage that he felt was fair. The owner, though, is someone that we should really take notice of. He recognized his power and wealth, but he did not lord it over someone else. He used it as a means of caring and sharing with other people's lives. So when he went to pay the men who labored in his fields, he gave to the last men a full day's wages. Even the ones who showed up throughout the day, he gave them each a fair full day's wage, a full value of what it is they meant to everyone. Yet it was this first group that balked because they expected more. They wanted more. They put in more time. They put in more effort. They should be paid more. Did they matter more than the other men? Their lives. They expected that the more they worked, the more they would earn. Does that sound familiar to anyone? However, the owner of the vineyard paid all of the men for a full day's wage. Not cheating any of the men, but also reminding all of the men that each and every one of them matter in the work of this world. Now, just like last week, this is a story that Jesus is sharing, and we can easily read this and never think about it again. That we should be in the midst of it. That it does not matter for my life, and I can easily walk out the door and get on with my life as if I never heard this at all. However, when we listen and realize that we experience this story every single day in the relationships and encounters that we have, we begin to realize that Jesus is telling us that the most important thing that we should be aware of is our own actions, our own thoughts, and the relationships that surround us. This is the very foundation of our community. This is the very impact that we share upon others, and it has an impact upon our own lives. So today, may you take some time to reflect and understand your own self and to realize how God has created you and the way you are impacting the world around you. May you receive and give the small gifts that truly matter in your life, and give God's calling to love in the world.